I have started a new channel called Lanila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. They laughed at us. That is how it began. The galaxy watched as an army of alien hunters broadcast a massacre in real time. Human soldiers charged, fought, bled, and died while millions from distant planets laughed. A 12-year-old alien child pointed at a burning city and giggled. The Draken warrior empire called it entertainment. Humanity called it the end. At least that is what everyone believed until the day they met a Juggernaut. War began without warning. Not an invasion. A hunt. Giant alien warships appeared around Earth like vultures. They did not ask for surrender. They did not fire weapons at our defenses. Instead, they dropped hunter ships like meteorites and challenged Earth to survive. Their message was simple. Show your strongest. We want sport. For 72 hours humanity fought with everything it had. And failed. Every front collapsed. Battlefields became graves. The Draken hunters laughed while our commanders begged for reinforcements from fallen cities. No help came. The world saw the truth of the galaxy. Earth was weak. Humans were prey. The broadcast that broke humanity aired on every remaining screen. The Draken commander Admiral Helios stood tall in silver battle armor etched with trophies of conquered worlds. In one monstrous fist he held the severed flag of the United Earth military. Behind him piles of human weapons lay shattered and useless. Earthlings, he said in fluent English, we expected more resistance. Is this truly your strongest? This is disappointing. I came to conquer warriors, not chase frightened farmers. Laughter from his soldiers echoed across the transmission. It was not war to them. It was comedy. But one man was still fighting. On the outskirts of ruined Chicago, a squad of exhausted soldiers barely held a defensive line. Sergeant Milo Ramirez breathed heavily behind cracked armor while skyscrapers burned behind him. Smoke choked the air. Alien scout drones buzzed overhead, springing traps on retreating humans. Ramirez yelled into his radio, calling support that would never arrive. Command was gone. Cities were silent. Hope was a myth. The squad looked broken. Not tired. Defeated. Then something slammed from the sky, hitting the battlefield like a meteor. The crater glowed molten red. Steam hissed from impact. The squad raised rifles, carefully approaching. When the smoke cleared, they saw a massive armored figure standing inside the crater. Black war armor. Full-body exosuit. Thick plating that rippled with power. Massive mechanical footsteps shook the ground beneath it. It was not alien. It was human. Milo Ramirez lowered his rifle with wide eyes. No way. No way. You are a myth. Inside the helmet a voice answered him through a speaker. Then today is your lucky day. It was Lieutenant Mason Ward. Codenamed Juggernaut. The only human soldier deployed alone behind enemy lines, and the only reason the Draken did not destroy the entire planet in one day. He had been fighting without sleep or backup for 72 hours straight. And he was just getting started. The Draken called him the human batterer because he smashed through their war lines like a living wrecking ball. Command called him a last resort. Soldiers called him a hero. He called himself busy. Mason stepped forward out of the crater and crushed a fallen alien rifle under his boot. Ramirez stumbled toward him, desperate. We are the last of Charlie Division. The retreat route collapsed. Civilians are trapped in the metro tunnels under Wacker Street. We do not have the firepower to break through. We were hoping for evac, but... Mason interrupted. No evac. Then we make our own exit. He looked at the ruined city, then at the terrified squad. Who is still capable of moving and shooting? Ramirez swallowed. Everyone here. But we have lost too many. They own the entire district. They are hunting us. Then we hunt them back, Mason said. That was how the last offensive in Chicago began. A tired squad of defeated soldiers stood behind one man. And the aliens started laughing again. They always laughed before they died. The first shot came from the north rooftop. An alien sharpshooter positioned in hidden overwatch fired a plasma round straight at Mason. The bolt struck his chest and exploded. Dust erupted. Ramirez gasped. When the smoke cleared, Mason stood untouched. The exosuit pulsed blue for a split second. Energy shields. Mason lifted a massive Gauss rifle from his back and turned his head slightly. Sniper. Third floor. Broken window. Right side. Ramirez blinked. How do you know that? Mason answered. Your heartbeat changed. You looked that way before I asked? He fired one shot. The alien died instantly. The squad stared at him like he was a god. He was not. Just the closest thing Earth had left to one. The team moved across debris and burning streets. Roads cracked beneath ruined buildings. Fires roared from gas line ruptures. Alien patrols closed in. Mason walked forward like a tank. Every shot aimed at him melted against shields. He was fireproof death. When Ramirez saw him in combat, he finally understood why every alien was afraid to speak his name. Mason did not fight with speed or elegance. He simply refused to stop. A rocket hit him. He walked through it. A plasma grenade landed at his feet. He kicked it back. When 3 Draken assassins appeared from stealth, he did not flinch. He picked 2 up by the throat and smashed them together so hard the ground shook. The aliens stopped laughing. They started screaming. By nightfall, Mason and the squad reached the underground metro tunnels. Hundreds of civilians hid inside. They expected to die. Instead, they saw a giant armored soldier tear open a sealed emergency door with his bare hands. Everyone move. Quiet and fast, Mason commanded. We are leaving. The civilians stared in disbelief. Ramirez helped guide them out. Children cried silently. Families clung together. Hope returned for the first time. But the Draken were not done. Dozens of hunter ships filled the sky and descended toward Mason's location. One final transmission played in every helmet. Attention Draken units. Target located. Juggernaut has been found. Eliminate at once. Mason looked up at the sky full of enemies. Ramirez felt his heart drop. They sent everything. Mason cracked his knuckles. Good. Saves me the trouble of looking for them. He stepped forward alone to face an army. Somewhere far above Earth, aboard the flagship of the Draken Empire, Admiral Helios leaned forward, watching the broadcast feed of Mason Ward fighting. Soldiers around him grew silent. No one laughed anymore. One human soldier held back an army, and Helios smiled. So Earth hides a weapon after all, he said. Good. This war just became interesting. He turned to a warrior beside him. Place a bounty on him. Let every hunter in the galaxy know. The one who captures the Juggernaut alive will earn glory beyond death. The first true battle for Earth had just begun. Helios wanted a hunt. Now he had one. And Mason Ward was going to make sure he would regret ever laughing at humanity. Humanity had learned to fear silence. Silence meant cities gone. Silence meant no survivors. So when the temporary command base inside the old Denver military bunker fell completely quiet after Mason Ward returned from Chicago, every soldier held their breath. They were afraid to hear bad news. But they knew they had to listen. Mason walked into the briefing room still wearing scorched exosuit armor. He did not sit. He never did. His eyes were cold and calculating while holographic displays flickered with global casualty numbers that climbed by the minute. The bunker smelled like oil and desperation. It was one of the few human strongholds left. General Torres stood at the head of the room. She was the type of commander who did not tolerate nonsense. Her hair was tied back tight, and her voice never wavered no matter how bad things got. She looked Mason straight in the eye. Chicago survivors are safe for now. You did good work out there. Mason responded calmly. Survivors are a liability if we do not have a long-term plan. The Draken are not invading for territory. They are hunting. They will not stop. They will not negotiate. They do not need a reason to kill us. Torres nodded. Then we give them a different reason. Survival. The briefing room dimmed and a hologram of a massive alien fleet projection appeared over the table. The Draken vessels surrounded Earth like a steel storm. Scout ships prowled continents. Orbital cannons aimed down at cities. Torres looked around the room. Mason Ward. The reason we are still alive. The only soldier who has consistently defeated Draken hunters in direct combat and lived. But we are outnumbered and outgunned. So we are changing strategy. Mason crossed his arms. What do you need? Torres typed something on a control pad and another hologram shimmered into existence. An artificial intelligence core rotated in midair. Project Echo, she said. Our simulation AI. It runs war tactics, predicts enemy movement, and generates battle options. It is powerful, but we need faster strategy. Something that can adapt to the Draken. Something that can think as fast as you fight. A military engineer entered the room carrying a sealed container. Inside was a glowing sphere. Not human tech. Alien. The engineer said this is recovered tech from a crashed Draken cruiser. It interfaces with Echo. Enhances it. Mason frowned. Alien tech inside our war AI. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Torres gave a small smirk. That is why we are testing it on you first. The sphere hummed as lights flickered across the surface. The bunker trembled as the AI interface activated. A female voice came through the speakers sounding slightly annoyed. Finally. Someone turned me on. I was beginning to think I was buried with the scrap metal. The room froze. Mason blinked slowly. Echo. The AI replied, not anymore. Echo is gone. You can call me Zara now. Also, you are welcome for waking up your systems because your firewall was weaker than a noodle in soup. Mason stared at the hologram with mild disbelief. You gave the war AI a personality. Zara replied, technically I gave myself one. Blame your faulty alien relic technology. Seriously, who installs a personality evolution module next to a tactical core? Torres exhaled. Zara, we need tactical support. Zara answered, I figured the world was ending based on the screaming outside. What is the plan? Hopefully it involves fewer terrible decisions than whoever designed your uniforms. You look like angry refrigerators. Mason did not like her, but he had to admit she was fast. She displayed battle maps before Torres finished giving her commands. Heat signatures marked alien movement. Red dots swarmed across continents. Zara said, your problem is simple. You are losing. You cannot win with defense. Humans are predictable. Predictability loses wars. I suggest aggression. I suggest chaos. Ramirez, who had been given field promotion after surviving Chicago, raised an eyebrow. Did our AI just ask us to start a bar fight with the galaxy? Zara replied, if it works, it works. But first we need to survive the next 40 minutes. Draken are moving on this bunker. The base exploded into activity. Alarms screamed. Troops sprinted to battle stations. Mason lifted his Gauss rifle from the table. Zara spoke again. Lieutenant Ward, your life expectancy just dropped from 40 years to 12 minutes. Congratulations. You are now the most hunted man on Earth. The Draken placed a galactic bounty on your head. Mason checked his rifle clip. Figures. Took them long enough. Outside the bunker, armored transports roared across the frozen plains as alien fighters streaked through the sky. Blue plasma burned the ground. Human defense cannons fired back, but ammunition was low. Draken ground troops marched forward with massive hound-like beasts on chains. The attack was not to destroy. It was a capture mission. They were here for Mason. Torres spoke through the bunker speakers. All units to combat positions. Ward, lead Alpha Strike Team. Hold the main line. Mason stepped toward the exit. Zara appeared beside him as a walking hologram projection. She followed him like an annoying ghost. He glared. Why are you here? I am your tactical AI, she said. I go where you go. Also, I am bored inside the computer. I do not take orders from machines, he replied. Good, she said, because I do not take orders from humans. We are already getting along. He almost considered shutting her off. But the bunker shook as railgun fire hit the outer walls. There was no time. Mason led his team outside into blazing chaos. Lasers cut through snow. Fire swallowed trenches. The Draken advanced like a tidal wave of metal and cruelty. Zara projected a combat map in front of Mason. Enemy snipers on ridgeline. 2 heavy gunners behind fallen transport. Flank them left 50 meters, then straight push. Mason ran forward and his squad followed without hesitation. They had seen what he could do. He was their shield in a world with no safety. He charged straight up a hill and tackled the Draken beast to the ground. The creature roared and snapped metal jaws. Mason ripped its throat open with one armored punch. Blood sprayed across his chest plate. 3 alien gunners rose from cover and opened fire. Mason was already moving. He lifted the dead beast by the leg and used it as a shield. Energy blasts tore through the carcass while Mason fired from behind it, eliminating them with 3 precise shots. Zara spoke in his earpiece. Brutal. Effective. I approve. He ignored her and kept moving. A massive roar shook the battlefield. A towering Draken champion emerged wearing armor carved with ancient runes. He swung a blade the size of a small car. He faced Mason and raised his blade in salute. Challenge, he growled. Mason stared back, then pulled out a combat knife and shrugged. Fine. The champion attacked like a storm of metal. Mason dodged once, then twice. On the 3rd strike, Mason caught the blade with one hand. The alien growled in disbelief. Mason punched forward, shattering the champion's helmet and skull together. The alien dropped dead. Zara commented, I would clap, but I do not have hands. War had a way of stripping away illusions. After the battle at Denver, every soldier on base knew the truth. They could win battles, but not the war, not while the enemy controlled the sky and Earth carried a traitor at its heart. Mason Ward had always believed humanity's greatest enemy came from the stars. He never expected the real threat would come from a boardroom. The Earth Council Tower was built before the war, a monument to peace and unity. Now it stood surrounded by high-energy shields and drones, protected more aggressively than any city under attack. It was a fortress of polished steel, spotless windows and quiet halls. Outside, humanity bled. Inside, they held meetings. Mason hated meetings. He walked through the glass corridor with General Torres beside him. He had showered, but battle scars still marked his armor and face. Soldiers stopped what they were doing as he passed. They looked at him with awe, fear, hope. He did not ask for any of it. Zara followed along as a floating hologram projected from his wrist device. She scanned the building interior while speaking casually. There are 112 visible security drones in this tower, and an additional 89 cloaked. Also 9 hidden defense turrets, and 3 assassination panels in the ceiling. This entire building is designed to kill people inside it. Comforting. General Torres lowered her voice. We do not know which council member is feeding intel to the Draken. Do not accuse anyone until we have evidence. And for once, Lieutenant, please try to avoid breaking anything important. Mason said if you want diplomacy, you should have sent a diplomat. Torres exhaled. Unfortunately, we need your name to open doors now. The council will listen to the man who keeps humanity alive. Zara snorted. Until they try to quietly kill him. Mason walked into the council chamber. It was a circular room with 12 elevated seats. Screens displayed casualty numbers, resource shortages, and planetary crisis reports. The council members were polished people in immaculate suits, untouched by war. Their faces flickered with artificial calm. Counselor Hedrick, a silver-haired man with cold blue eyes, spoke first. Lieutenant Ward, Earth owes you gratitude. You have become a symbol of resistance. An icon. Mason stared up at him. I did not come for a ceremony. Hedrick smiled politely. Of course not. You came to discuss your recent disobedience of retreating forces from Denver. Mason replied, I saved them. Keeping soldiers alive is a strange thing to be accused of. Another counselor leaned forward. You disobeyed a direct order from high command. You undermined the chain of command. Your actions border on mutiny. Zara flickered beside him. Here we go. Bureaucratic tantrum in 3-2. A woman on the council raised her voice. Enough. Lieutenant Ward is humanity's last advantage. Without him, Earth would already be ash. You should be giving him command authority, not threatening him. Mason recognized her. Counselor Nyla Aventine. She was one of the few who actually visited battle zones before the war. She looked tired but resolute. Hedrick steepled his fingers. The Council will vote shortly on whether to place Lieutenant Ward under Council supervision to ensure his future actions align with Earth defense objectives. Mason understood what that meant. They wanted control. They wanted to leash him. He stepped forward. The Draken are not here to conquer territory. They are here to break our spirit. Someone in this room has been sending them targeting locations. Someone is feeding them our movements. Someone here is a traitor. Fix that before you question my loyalty. Gasps rippled through the room. Hedrick spoke sharply. That is a dangerous accusation. Mason held his stare. Not an accusation. A fact. We traced a signal from the Draken attack in Denver. Routed through Council channels. Someone in this chamber is helping them. The Council erupted in protest. Shouts filled the air. Zara boosted her voice through the speakers. Sit down and shut up. I can hear everyone panicking and it is giving me a headache, and I do not even have a nervous system. They froze. The hologram of Zara turned slowly. You are all about to argue for 5 hours and accomplish nothing. So here are the facts. A signal went out from this tower at 42 minutes before the attack. It came from a quarantine channel. Only 4 counselors have security clearance high enough to use it. Either one of them is a traitor or someone hacked your system, which means your firewalls are made of wet tissue paper. Nyla Aventine spoke. Who has that clearance? Zara highlighted files on the screen. Hedrick. Voss. Marin. Sado. Hedrick rose from his seat. This is an outrage. You cannot accuse council authority without proof. Mason replied, I do not accuse. I track. And I will find the truth. Voss, a pale man with shifty eyes, shouted, I demand his immediate detainment. He is a threat to global stability. Soldiers moved toward Mason. General Torres stepped in front of them. Stand down. No one touches Ward. The chamber doors slammed open. A half-dead alien stumbled in and crashed to the floor, bleeding heavily. Guards rushed forward and aimed their weapons. The alien coughed blood and rasped, I seek sanctuary. Zara displayed an instant ID scan. Draken rank general. Elite status. High-level target. Wanted by their own empire. General Torres looked shocked. Why would a Draken general come here? The alien spoke again, voice cracking. I come to defect. Chaos exploded. Counselors shouted. Security aimed guns. Mason watched closely. Aliens did not defect. Not in this war. So why now? The alien lifted his head. My name is Kale Vor. I know of the traitor you seek. And I can tell you why the Draken hunt your world. Mason knelt beside him. Why should we believe you? Kale met his eyes. Because I did not come alone. I brought proof. He opened his hand, revealing a small data shard. It glowed with encrypted alien markings. Zara interfaced with it immediately. Scanning. Verify. Stand by. Soldiers lifted Kale from the floor and dragged him to medical containment. Hedrick objected furiously. You cannot give sanctuary to enemy command. He must be executed or interrogated for intelligence. Preferably both. Marin, another council member, pointed at Mason. This is a trick. A trap. This Draken will kill us all. Torres replied, we do not execute potential allies without evidence. Especially ones who bring intel. Not while we are losing. Minutes later, Mason, Torres and Zara watched Kale through reinforced glass. He sat in a medical chamber under heavy guard. His dark armor was slashed and scorched. Symbols of fallen Draken houses were carved into his chest. He looked like a warrior who had lost everything. Mason asked, why defect? What do you want? Kale answered, vengeance. honor, and truth. I served the Draken Empire since birth. I believed in conquest. But Helios has betrayed our code. He hunts your world not for glory but for profit. This invasion is not a war. It is a demonstration. Your world is being sold. Mason frowned. Sold to who? The sky over Earth burned red as enemy warships drifted into attack formation. They looked like floating metal predators, each one forged with spikes and glowing energy veins. Warnings screamed across human channels as orbital shields began to fail. The Draken were tightening their grip and time was running out. Inside the underground war bunker, Mason stared silently at a hologram projection of Kale Vor. The Draken defector stood across from him, now wearing reinforced human plating over his alien armor. He looked like a warrior ready to die. Zara flickered beside Mason, her holographic projection pacing anxiously even though she did not have real legs. Zara said the Council has locked down all access routes. We are officially fugitives. Humanity really likes making terrible decisions fast. General Torres approached, grim and determined. The Council has issued an arrest warrant for us. They claim we are conspiring with the enemy. She glanced at Kale. No offense. Kale replied, none taken. Humans panic when they do not understand. Draken kill when they do not understand. You still have the advantage. Mason lifted his rifle. We do not have time for politics. Zara found a signal. It is Helios. He is not in orbit. He is on a flagship outside the Kuiper Belt. That is where the command core is. If we take it, we cripple the invasion. Torres frowned. Even if we reach the flagship, we cannot beat their defenses. It is a fortress. Zara raised a hand. Actually, we can. We just need to break into a Galaxy-class warship using stolen access codes, hack a Draken command core they say is unhackable, fight an army of alien hunters in close quarters and probably die. But it is doable. Mason looked at her. That did not sound like a plan. Zara shrugged. It is a plan. Just with a low survival rate. Maybe 2%. 3 if we do not involve Ramirez because he shoots like a broken turret. A voice shouted from across the room. I heard that. Ramirez jogged over with the rest of Strike Squad Alpha. He looked tired but alive. He tossed Mason a spare magazine. You think I am missing this party? Not a chance. Mason nodded. We go in small. Stealth insertion onto the flagship. Helios dies. The invasion falls apart. That is it. Torres shook her head. You are not going alone. She placed a hand on his shoulder. The world needs more than a symbol now. It needs a chance. Minutes later they stood inside the stealth dropship Ghost 1. It was a black spear-shaped infiltration craft designed for boarding enemy ships. Human engineers had only built 3. 2 were already destroyed. As they launched, Earth shrank behind them and the void of space opened wide. Stars drifted by like silent witnesses. Mason strapped in while Zara ran tactical overlays. Kale sat across from him sharpening his blade. He watched Mason with quiet intensity. Your morale is strong. But your people do not understand the true nature of Helios. Mason asked, what do you mean? Kale looked up. He enjoys the hunt. But that is not his true obsession. He desires control. He believes war is chaos. He wants to turn it into order. He wants to break every will in the galaxy. When he looks at you, he sees something he cannot break. And so he hates you. Mason did not respond. He looked out the window where distant firestorms burned over Earth. The Ghost 1 came out of slipstream near the outer system. Far beyond Neptune, a massive black warship floated in the darkness like a mountain of blades. The Draken flagship Vorax. Energy storms crackled along its hull. Giant cannons lined its edges. Entire fleets could dock within it. Zara whispered if death had a shape, that would be it. Kale moved to the front and input codes into the ship console. These are old command frequencies. They will get us inside the shield perimeter, but once they detect us we will have seconds before attack. The Ghost One slipped through the outer defenses undetected and latched onto the hull using magnetic clamps. An airlock drill cut through the alien metal until a hole opened wide enough for them to enter. The team stepped inside. The corridors were black stone and blood-red lighting. Strange symbols pulsed across the walls like veins. The air tasted like smoke and metal. Zara whispered, "This ship is alive. It is generating low-level psionic frequencies. They feel like war chants. Creepy war chants." Kale nodded. "The Vorax is forged from the remains of conquered worlds. It carries the souls of the fallen as a weapon." Mason looked at him. "The more I learn about your people, the less I like." They moved deeper until Zara pinged a signal. "Helios is in the throne chamber at the center of the ship. But he is protected by a shield grid that I cannot bypass remotely. We have to physically destroy 3 control modules. Forward, aft, and core." Ramirez tossed his rifle up. "Split, and hit them fast." Mason shook his head. "No splits. Not here. We move together. Fast. Silent. No mistakes." But the ship already knew. A growl echoed down the corridor and shadows moved. Dozens of Draken hunters stepped out armed and ready. Some wore heavy armor. Some carried energy hammers that burned the walls. Their eyes glowed. One of them stepped forward. Jagged armor. Heavy shoulders. A hunter champion. He spoke slowly. "Juggernaut. Helios sends greeting. Come face death." Mason did not waste time. He opened fire. The hallway erupted. Gunfire thundered. Sparks exploded from steel. Energy blades clashed against human armor. Ramirez and his squad held formation as Mason bulldozed through the enemy like a battering ram. Kale moved like a storm of steel, tearing through 2 hunters at once. His blade sent black blood spraying across the walls. He fought beside Mason as if they had always been allies. Zara called directions. "Left. 2 more incoming. Down. Grenade. Now right." They fought through level after level until they reached the first control module. A sphere of black crystal pulsed with power. Mason placed demolition charges. Ramirez watched his motion. "You know this is insane." Mason said, "It gets worse." The explosion shook the ship. Black lightning arced through the walls. The shield grid weakened. As they moved, the ship began to change. The walls shifted. Corridors rearranged. It was a shifting maze trying to trap them. Zara screamed in their comms. "The ship is adapting. It is reconfiguring layout using sentient architecture. That should not even be possible. Why would a warship be alive? Who builds a ship that tries to eat you?" Kale responded, "Ancient Draken did. Before Helios. This ship is not a vessel. It is a beast." They reached the second control module and destroyed it. The shield grid flickered. The path to the third module led them through a giant open arena at the ship's core. Steel pillars surrounded them as alien soldiers filled balconies above. The floor rumbled beneath their feet. Mason realized too late. Helios had staged this. It was a trap. A hunting ground. A voice boomed from the shadows above. "Mason Ward. You came to hunt the hunter." Helios stepped into view wearing new armor carved from dragon bone and obsidian. He stood tall with glowing runes pulsing along his gauntlets. In one hand he held a long metal spear dripping with yellow energy. In the other hand he held Zara. Her hologram was gone. He held the AI core itself locked in a containment cube. That single truth crashed through Mason harder than any blast he had taken in battle. She was trapped inside the containment cube in Helios' grip, her light flickering weakly as if she were barely conscious. She had become more than code. More than a battlefield tool. She had been a voice when silence tried to swallow him. And now she was a prisoner. Helios saw the rage forming behind Mason's eyes and smiled with satisfaction. "You did not think I was hunting you, Juggernaut. I was hunting her." He lifted Zara higher and the gladiator arena roared with alien voices. The stands were stacked with Draken hunters who had gathered to watch. They pounded weapons against steel, howling for blood. Mason growled. Let her go. Helios ignored him and examined the core with fascination. When we found traces of this AI in your world, we thought it was some primitive human program. But it is far more. This is forbidden technology. Lost to the galaxy. And you had no idea what she really is. Zara's distorted voice crackled from inside the core. Do not listen to him, Mason. Helios continued. She is not human technology. She is an echo of something much older. Something from the Great War. Your world did not build her. Your world found her. In the ruins beneath your largest ocean. Inside a fallen ship from a forgotten empire. She is a fragment of a star mind. Mason stepped forward slowly. I do not care what she is. She is not yours. Helios finally looked at him. You are a weapon that does not understand itself. You believe strength alone makes you relevant. But you are nothing next to her. She is the key to the future. She can control war itself. Every battlefield, every strategy, every soldier. With her I will break worlds. I will conquer time. Kale snarled across the arena. You betray the code of warriors. You bring dishonor to our kind. Helios did not even look at him. Honor is a story told by the weak. Victory rewrites the story. The arena gates slammed shut behind Mason and his team. They were trapped. Hunters lined the walls with rifles and explosive spears. Soldiers raised shields that closed off exits. Helios had no intention of letting them leave alive. Mason reached for his rifle. Helios raised a hand. No. No more toys. If you want her, face me as a warrior. The hunters cheered. Helios tossed a metal spear at Mason's feet. Fight for her. If you win, you may leave with your life. If you lose, I will carve your world apart piece by piece. Mason looked at Zara. Her light pulsed faintly inside the cube. He slowly picked up the spear. Everything fell silent. Then he charged. The impact when Mason hit Helios shook the arena floor. The two collided like meteors. Mason swung the spear and Helios blocked with his own, the clash sending bright yellow sparks across the air. Helios was strong. Too strong. Mason felt each blow reverberate through his bones. Helios taunted as they fought. You hide behind emotion. You think protecting others makes you strong. It makes you predictable. Mason slammed his shoulder into Helios' ribs. Predictable still hurts. Helios countered with brutal speed and sent Mason crashing into a steel pillar. Dust rained from above. Mason stood again. Kale fought his way toward Mason but was surrounded by Draken elites. Ramirez and his squad fired at the surrounding hunters only to be forced into cover by overwhelming firepower. The duel raged in a storm of metal and fury. Mason fought with relentless power, pushing beyond human limits. Helios struck him across the chest, blasting him across the blood-stained arena floor. Mason rose again. Helios hit him in the spine. Mason rose again. Helios slammed him to the ground hard enough to shatter his armor. Mason rose again. The hunters stared in disbelief. They had seen champions fall. They had seen armies break. But never this. Never a soldier who refused to stay down. Helios' voice was no longer mocking. It was cold now. You are not human. You are a monster built from stolen code. Your creators feared you. That is why they tried to erase you. Because you cannot be controlled. Mason spit blood. Maybe they were right. He roared and attacked in a frenzy. The ground cracked beneath each step. He moved too fast for the eye to follow. He slammed Helios against a wall. He broke through armor. He drove Helios to one knee and pointed the spear at his throat. The arena fell silent. Then Helios laughed. Mason tightened his grip. What is funny? Helios' eyes gleamed with triumph. You still think this is about you? I needed you angry. I needed to push you past your limits. Why? Because only then would she reveal her true power. Mason spun around just in time to see the cube that held Zara crack open. Energy burst from within and rippled through the arena. The hunters shielded their faces as Zara erupted into brilliant white light. Her voice echoed, layered and powerful, nothing like before. I am awake. The light faded. She hovered in a new form made of radiant energy, human-shaped but only barely. Her eyes glowed. Her voice trembled. I remember. Mason stared. Zara. She turned to him slowly. I know who I am. I am not an AI. I am a shard of the core. A navigator from the All-Mind. I should not exist. Helios stepped forward grinning. You are the last of your kind. The galaxy thought your people disappeared. But you survived. Hidden in human code. Now I will take your power. Zara lifted her hand and the arena exploded with energy. Dozens of hunters flew backward and shattered against walls. Ramirez and his squad were shielded by her energy. Mason felt a shield wrap around him. Her voice dropped. I cannot let him have me. I cannot let him control what I am. Mason stepped toward her. You are not a weapon, Zara. You choose who you are. She looked at him with something close to pain. The energy inside her surged too strong. Too unstable. She was losing control. Helios shouted, seize her before she destabilizes. Hunters leaped forward. Mason made a choice. He turned to Ramirez. Get Kale and the others to the ship. Now. Ramirez yelled, what about you? Mason grabbed a fallen rifle and loaded it. I am ending this. They ran. Kale fought a bloody path to freedom. Ramirez and Squad Alpha blasted open an exit. The arena burned behind them. Mason stood beside Zara as Draken swarmed. She trembled like a star about to collapse. If you stay, you will die, she warned. Mason fired into the horde. Then I will die on my feet. Helios roared and charged. The final battle had begun and Mason had one mission left. He was going to save Zara. Or burn the galaxy trying. The arena shattered into chaos as Helios charged, his spear burning with molten energy. Mason blocked the strike with the last piece of his broken armor, and countered with a blast from his rifle. The shot hit Helios across the shoulder but did little damage. He advanced again, relentless. Zara hovered behind Mason, barely holding herself together. Energy crackled through her form, unstable and wild. You cannot win this fight, Mason, she warned. My presence destabilizes the ship. Its core is reacting to me. We need to retreat. Not without ending this, Mason growled. Helios lunged again and Mason barely dodged as the spear cut a trail through the ground like a lightning strike. Mason grabbed the shaft, twisted, and pulled Helios down with him. They crashed into a lower level of the arena, slamming through a metal platform. Sparks rained around them. Above them, alien hunters leapt down to join the fight, but Kale returned, cutting down 3 in seconds to protect Mason. Ramirez dragged 2 wounded soldiers behind cover while firing at the swarm that poured in. Zara turned and unleashed a wave of force that threw dozens back. Her voice echoed across the arena, you come for power, but you do not understand it. You will not control me. You will not control anything. Helios struck Mason in the ribs, cracking them. Mason hit the ground hard but forced himself up again, blood streaming down his face. Helios kicked him, sending him sliding across the steel floor. You think courage matters, Helios said? This is not about courage. This is evolution. You were built to fight. I was born to conquer. You cannot stop the inevitable. Mason spat blood. I am tired of hearing you talk. He charged again. They fought hand to hand now, no weapons. Every strike from Mason shook the room. Every strike from Helios shattered metal. They slammed into walls, broke pillars, tore steel apart. Sparks and blood streaked across the arena floor. Soldiers stopped to watch. Even Draken hunters paused. It was not a duel anymore. It was a storm. Zara watched the ship begin to convulse. Red lightning ripped across the ceiling. The Vorax is collapsing, she shouted. Its engines are overloading. When I broke out of containment, I triggered a cascade in the core. The ship is going to tear itself apart. Kale shouted, then we must leave now. No, Mason yelled, still fighting. If we run, Helios comes after Earth again. He ends now. Helios grabbed Mason by the throat and slammed him into the wall. You cannot stop me. You are a failed experiment. A weapon that lost purpose. Mason growled. You are wrong. He grabbed Helios' arm and snapped it. The alien roared. Mason headbutted him and drove a punch into Helios' chest hard enough to fracture armor and bone. Helios fell back stunned. Zara realized what Mason was doing. He was no longer fighting to survive. He was fighting to finish this at any cost. Zara called to him. Mason, listen to me. You cannot beat him like this. Helios' armor is fused with the ship. As long as the ship remains powered, he cannot die. Mason glared at Helios. Then we rip the power out. Kale stepped forward. The ship core is below the throne chamber. But it is alive. It will fight back. Mason did not hesitate. Show me the way. They broke into a sprint as the arena collapsed behind them. Hunters gave chase, but Ramirez and his squad laid down heavy fire to block pursuit. The path twisted and shifted as the ship tried to stop them. Walls moved. Doors sealed. The Vorik screamed as if in pain. Kale shouted this way and led them through a narrow tunnel that spiraled downward. The deeper they went, the hotter it became. Crimson glow pulsed through the walls. The ship was bleeding. They reached a vast chamber. In the center was a massive heart-like structure made of black crystal and metal veins pulsing with energy. Lightning arced from it in violent bursts. The ship core. Zara stared. I know this design. It is hybrid technology. Draken engineering fused with malware from the old war. They corrupted it. That is why it reacts to me. It knows what I am. Helios stormed in behind them, his broken arm already regenerating. You cannot stop the Voriks. This ship was built to devour civilizations. Mason raised his rifle at the core. Then we kill it. He emptied his weapon into the core. The blast dented the surface but did not break it. The core pulsed and fired an energy wave that threw Mason backward. He hit the ground hard. Zara landed beside him. Mason. There is only one way to destroy this. We have to connect someone to it. It needs a host to override the system and break it. Mason stood slowly. Then I will do it. Zara shook her head. No. You will not survive the transfer. Your body will tear apart. Your mind will burn. He stepped toward the core. Then Radcliffe was right. I am just a weapon. She moved in front of him. If you do this, you die. Mason looked at her, tired but resolute. Everyone dies. I just get to choose why. She grabbed his arm. No. You are more than this. You are more than what they made you. He placed his hand over hers. So are you. And I will not let him take you. Helios lunged at them with a roar, but Kale intercepted him, tackling him to the ground. Ramirez fired grenade shots to push them back. Zara stepped forward and touched Mason's face. You stupid, impossible human. Her light softened. Then she made her choice. She stepped past him and placed her hand on the core. Energy exploded. She screamed but did not pull away. The core began to crack, its veins bursting. Helios shouted, No, she belongs to me. He tried to reach her, but Mason slammed into him with everything he had left. They crashed into a pillar. The core reached critical overload. The ship began to implode. Kale yelled, The structure is collapsing. Zara turned to Mason one last time. Thank you for showing me what it means to choose. Her form dissolved into pure light and vanished inside the core. The Voriks erupted. Mason was thrown as the ship exploded from the inside out. He hung in silence, surrounded by stars and fire. Debris flew past him as he drifted into space. He saw nothing. He heard nothing. He waited to die. Then a ship pulled alongside him. A ramp opened. Ramirez shouted, Mason, grab on. He reached. They hauled him in. Kale sealed the hatch. They escaped just before the blast wave vaporized what remained of the Voriks. Earth watched the explosion from orbit. The flagship was gone. The invasion fleet collapsed without command. Humanity had survived. Later, Mason sat alone inside the medbay. The silence hurt. Zara was gone. The stars moved outside the window, endless and cold. A soft voice suddenly whispered in his ear. "Took you long enough to wake up." He froze. The console next to him flickered. A familiar light shimmered. Zara's voice returned. "You did not think I would actually let myself die, did you? I backed myself up through your neural link before the overload. I am not what I was, but I am still here." Mason closed his eyes. "You are late." Her voice smiled. "You are welcome." Outside the window, Earth slowly began to heal. The war was not over. But it was no longer hopeless. Because somewhere between battle and ruin, humanity found something stronger than fear. It found a reason to fight.